Distinguished guests, if you are able, please stand. Their Excellencies, the Right Honourable Dame Cindy Kero, Governor General of New Zealand, and Dr. Richard Davis.
Kia ora everyone, please be seated. E ngā mana, e ngā reo, e ngā iwi o ngā hau e whā, tēnei aku mihi mahana ki o koutou. Nau mai, hara mai, ki te whare kāwanatanga o whanginui e tara. Kia ora mai tātou katoa. Distinguished guests, it is my pleasure to welcome you here to Government House for today's investiture ceremony. I'd like to specifically acknowledge the Honourable Andrew Little, Minister of the Crown, Kerry Gregory, Chief Executive of Fire and Emergency New Zealand, Russell Wood, National Commander, Fire and Emergency New Zealand, Carl McConney, Chief Executive, Land Search and Rescue New Zealand, Mr Joe Harawira, Kaumātua, and Ms Pihiwahine Tipo, our kuia. And I must say we're in very good hands should we have an emergency today. Hosting investiture ceremonies is one of the most important duties I perform on behalf of His Majesty the King of New Zealand. I'm delighted to bring together such an extraordinary group of New Zealanders. You have each brought pride and a greater sense of well-being to Aotearoa New Zealand through your outstanding achievements and your service to our communities. On behalf of all New Zealanders, I extend my sincerest thanks to you for your contributions. After each recipient is honoured, I invite you to join with me in congratulating them. I will now ask Ms Catriona McLeod to summon the recipients and read their citations.
Your Excellency, to receive the insignia of a Dame Companion of the New Zealand Order of Merit, Dame Miranda Harcourt of Wellington for services to the screen industry and theatre. Dame Miranda Harcourt has made award-winning contributions to the theatre and screen industries as an actor, acting coach, producer, director and writer. Dame Miranda has applied her skills as a drama therapist within the New Zealand prison system. A pioneer of verbatim theatre in New Zealand in the 1990s, alongside her husband Stuart Mackenzie, She toured the acclaimed show Verbatim 1993 nationally and internationally to theatres, schools and prisons. She's collaborated on numerous projects with her husband, including adapting their play Portraits in 1996 into the feature film For Good 2003, and creating 10-part documentary series Tough Act in 2005. She wrote and co-directed the 2017 feature film The Changeover, based on Margaret Mahy's coming-of-age novel. Most recently, their verbatim play Transmission in 2021 dramatised aspects of New Zealand's response to the COVID-19 pandemic. She was head of acting at Toi Whakaari New Zealand Drama School from 1998 to 2005, and now works globally with leading directors and actors. Her clients have been nominated for and won BAFTAs, AFTAs, Golden Globes, Emmys, and Academy Awards. She is founding tutor at Rata Studios in Wellington and continues to champion New Zealand talent on the world stage. Dame Miranda has been an advocate for social change organisations, including Women's Refuge and So They Can. Dame Miranda Harcourt, please come forward. Your Excellency, to receive the insignia of a Companion of the New Zealand Order of Merit, Mrs. Lee Gibbs of Nelson, for services to netball. Lee Gibbs has been a player, coach, umpire and administrator in netball for 50 years. She served as the Talent Development Coordinator for Netball New Zealand from 2002. She's been assistant coach of the Silver Ferns and was head coach between 1994 and 1997. She was Netball New Zealand's community netball manager and served on the International Federation of Netball Association's Rules and Coaching Advisory Panel. She was the coach of the Mainland Tactics and spent 5 years at the Queensland State Netball Centre. She's an honorary life member of Netball New Zealand. Mrs. Gibbs is the General Manager of Nelson Netball Centre. Mrs. Lee Gibbs, please come forward. Your Excellency, to receive the insignia of a member of the New Zealand Order of Merit, Mrs. Ruta Mackenzie of Lincoln, for services to Pacific education. Ruta Mackenzie has been the Pacific Cultural Lead and Lead Facilitator with Core Education, providing cultural and strategic guidance. She led the Pacifica Leadership Program and the Southern Pacifica Project for the Ministry of Education and was co-researcher in the TLRI Research in Christchurch, exploring how young children express and develop working theories about language, identity, and culture. She has shared discourse and dialogue with the Pacific Advisory Group. She is a member of Society Aonga Amata Samoa i Aotearoa Incorporated, a group of Samoan teachers and former educators who provide a range of services. Mrs. Mackenzie has worked with pedagogical leaders in the updated Te Whariki 2017. Mrs. Ruta Mackenzie, please come forward. Mr. McNamara of Blenheim for services to Fire and Emergency New Zealand and Emergency Management. McNamara recently retired after many years in wildfire emergency response. He is internationally respected as a fire manager in the aviation sector, responding to wildfire events on New Zealand's behalf. He developed an operating standard for aviation firefighting and emergency response, which was adopted by other government departments. He set up the Fire and Emergency Air Desk, which oversees the dispatch of aircraft throughout New Zealand for aerial firefighting operations. He was aircraft manager during the 2010 Christchurch earthquakes. He helped establish the Marlborough-Kaikoura Rural Fire Authority and the newly structured Fire and Emergency New Zealand organisation. Mr. McNamara is a voluntary civil defence controller in Marlborough. Mr. McNamara, please come forward. Mr. Russell Postlethwaite of Porirua for services to Fire and Emergency New Zealand. Russell Postlethwaite has spent 51 years as a career firefighter and fire investigator. He has delivered fire safety messages in lower socio-economic areas. He was chief of the United Nations Fire Unit during the Balkan conflict and spent a year with New York City's Rescue Services. He was an advisor on the UN's Fire Equipment Procurement Committee. He has been a senior executive and president of the Fire Brigades Institute. He was chief fire officer at Plympton Volunteer Fire Brigade. He is co-editor of the New Zealand Firefighter online magazine K1. Mr. Postlethwaite has experienced a series of career-related cancers and mentored other firefighters in similar situations. Mr. Russell Postlethwaite, please come forward. Your Excellency, to receive the Queen's Service Medal, Mr. Brendan Butler of Waipawa for services to Fire and Emergency New Zealand. Brendan Butler has volunteered with the Tikokino Fire Brigade since 1972, holding every role from recruit to station chief. He's attended more than 2,000 call-outs and is regularly first in and last out. He lives far from the station and therefore misses the departure of the fire appliance, making his own way in his personal vehicle. He has spent many hours fixing and maintaining equipment and looking after the station. He has fundraised for the brigade, notably for a vital new tanker. Mr. Butler is committed to upskilling, having attended weekly training for more than 50 years. Mr. Brendan Butler, please come forward. Mr. Maurice Cowie of Omarama for services to search and rescue. Maurice Cowie has been a member of Omarama Search and Rescue, or SAR, since 1998, including as field member, team leader, and incident management team member, and has volunteered to assist in searches in other regions. In 2012, he helped locate a missing tramper in Ahuriri Valley after 14 days. He contributed time and materials to the renovation of the Omarama SAR base. He constructed a stretcher trailer for towing behind an ATV to rescue injured persons from the Alps to Ocean Cycle Trail. Mr. Cowie has also been involved with rural and urban fire brigades for 50 years. Mr. Maurice Cowie, please come forward. Mr. Mike Crosby of Ngaruawahia for services to Fire and Emergency New Zealand. Mike Crosby has been Chief Fire Officer of the Te Ako Voluntary Rural Fire Force since 1997. He played a key role in instigating the fire force and acquiring its 2 buildings and 3 vehicles. As owner of Te Ako Garage, he's maintained the vehicles free of charge for 25 years. He has led his team of volunteer firefighters away to courses to improve their skills. The Te Ako Rural Fire Force is frequently called out to assist fire services from Raglan, Huntly and Ngaruawahia. Mr. Crosby is a Justice of the Peace. Mr. Mike Crosby, please come forward. Mrs. Eileen Harvey Thawley of Mapua for services to Fire and Emergency New Zealand and the community. Eileen Harvey Thawley has volunteered with the Mapua Volunteer Fire Brigade since the mid-1990s and continues to respond to emergency call-outs at the age of 83, providing operational support at the station. She led efforts for the preservation of a 1948 heritage fire appliance. She helped obtain and restore a settler's cob house. She is a board member of the Mauturi Hills Cemetery, collated the enlistments for World War I in Nelson, and organised historical displays at Mapua Wharf and in Upper Mauturi. Mrs. Harvey Thawley and her husband donated land at the entrance to Mapua to the Kyojin Trust for local ecological preservation. Mrs. Eileen Harvey Thawley, please come forward. Reverend Hewani Nuku of Porirua for services to Tongan and Pacific communities. Reverend Hewani Nuku chairs the Wellington Tonga Leaders Council, which has led Tongan language revitalisation in Wellington. He has been involved with Whānau Ora projects. He was instrumental in establishing the Tongan Educational Expo. He supported Lalotaha Study Hub and was involved in Pacific Awhina Community Cluster Study Hub for Tongan high school students. He oversaw the first Tonga Youth Awards. He initiated the celebration of Tonga Day in Wellington. He has strong connections to the Pacific community nationwide through several organisations and boards. Reverend Nuku is Parish Superintendent for Lower Hutt Tongan Parish, Ututau, and Tawa Union Church. Reverend Hewani Nuku, please come forward. Your Excellency, to receive an Honorary Queen's Service Medal, Mrs. Kyojin Yoon of Christchurch for services to the Korean community. Kyojin Yoon was Cultural Event Manager and President of the Christchurch Korean Society. She has been involved with the Korean Day Culture Festival, Sarangbang Elder Care Program, and Earthquake Recovery Support. She is an advisor and teacher at the Christchurch Korean School. She sat on the Christchurch and Songpa-gu Sister City Committee. She's delivered seminars to help Koreans settle in New Zealand. She has supported the Christchurch Korean War Veterans community. Mrs. Yoon is well regarded for her engagement with leaders from other ethnic communities, as well as building working relationships with individuals within the Korean community. Mrs. Kyojin Yoon, please come forward. Your Excellency, the investiture has concluded.
New Zealand's honours system is our highest public affirmation of outstanding individual achievement. It reinforces those things that make our society better: service, manaakitanga, and the pursuit of excellence. To our recipients, it has been an honour and a privilege to hear your stories. You have each used your talents and abilities to improve the lives of fellow New Zealanders. In doing so, you embody the spirit of the whakatauki. Whaia te iti kahurangi, ki te tū ohu koe, me he maunga teitei. Seek the treasure that you value most dearly, and if you bow your head, let it be to a lofty mountain. I urge recipients to wear your insignia with pride at every opportunity, knowing that you inspire others through your example. On behalf of the King of New Zealand, and indeed all New Zealanders, I congratulate you on your achievements, and I thank you once again for your service to our communities. Kia ora, e huhi mai I tēnei rā. Now you will see on the back of your program the national anthem in both te reo and in English. I now invite you to stand with me and sing both.